Welcome to another deep dive, and today we're going to be looking at some stuff about self-improvement and how our brains work.
Cool.
Yeah, so we've got a really interesting mix today. We've got a Vietnamese self-help article, another Vietnamese piece about brain training for making decisions,
Okay.
and a YouTube video that gets into brain chemicals and productivity.
Sounds like we're going to unlock some serious potential here. I'm excited to see what these sources have to offer.
Yeah, me too, me too. So first up, let's jump into this Vietnamese article, 20 Practical Life Lessons to Help You Live Better and More Meaningfully.
Okay.
Now, before you think we've gone completely off the deep end here with a foreign language article,
Right.
there's some really universal wisdom here that I think everyone can relate to.
I'm always up for exploring wisdom from different cultures. What stood out to you from this article?
Well, you mentioned feeling a bit stuck lately,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a quote that really hit home for me, and it says, "The grass is greener where you water it." So, instead of comparing ourselves to others, maybe it's time to just focus on nurturing our own skills and passions.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's so easy to get caught up in what everybody else is doing and forget to tend to our own gardens, so to speak.
Exactly. And speaking of feeling stuff, the article also talks about the importance of learning to laugh at yourself.
Yeah,
Life can throw us some curveballs, and sometimes the best way to deal with it is just to find the humor in it all.
I love that. It reminds me of the saying, don't take life too seriously, you'll never get out alive. Being able to laugh at yourself can be a powerful tool for managing stress and bouncing back from setbacks.
For sure, for sure. Now, another point that resonated with me, especially since you've mentioned you've been feeling pulled in a million different directions lately,
Yeah,
is this idea that you can't please everybody.
right.
And the article encourages us to make choices that align with our own values,
Hmm.
even if it means disappointing some people along the way.
That's a crucial lesson, especially in today's world where it feels like everyone has an opinion. It's about having the courage to define your own path and not let the fear of judgment hold you back.
Right. So to wrap up this first article, it's packed with practical advice on how to live a more intentional and fulfilling life.
Hmm.
Even though it's in Vietnamese, the messages are so universal, I think it'll resonate with anyone, regardless of their background.
It's a testament to the shared human experience. We all grapple with similar challenges and aspirations no matter where we come from.
Absolutely. Okay, now get ready for a bit of a shift in gears here because our next stop is another Vietnamese article, this time focusing on decision making and brain training.
Okay.
The title is Three Ways to Train Your Brain to Make Quick and Accurate Decisions in Life.
Oh, interesting.
I think we could all benefit from that, especially in today's fast-paced world.
Definitely. I'm curious to hear what they suggest. Making decisions efficiently is a skill that can have a huge impact on our lives.
Well, the core idea is that you can actually train your brain to become a decision-making machine, like a mental muscle that you can strengthen over time.
Okay.
And the first step is all about building momentum by making small decisions fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like what to eat for breakfast, what to wear, whether to hit snooze one more time.
Interesting. I've never thought about it that way. Those small, seemingly insignificant choices, they actually play a role in training our brains to be more decisive.
Exactly. It's like those tiny decisions create this positive feedback loop where the more we practice making them efficiently, the more confident and decisive we become in other areas of our lives.
Hmm.
It's a great way to build up that decision-making muscle.
I love that analogy. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and the second step is equally important, and that is reflecting on the outcome of your decisions, both good and bad.
Hmm.
This is where the real learning happens, because by analyzing the consequences of our choices, we can identify patterns, adjust our approach, and ultimately make better decisions in the future.
It's like turning those everyday experiences into valuable data points that inform our decision-making process. And you know what? This ties back to that first article we discussed.
Right.
By becoming more skilled decision makers, we're more likely to create a life that's less stressful and more aligned with our goals.
Right. It's about making choices that move us closer to that greener grass that we were talking about earlier. Now, the third and final step the article emphasizes might be the most challenging, and that is to make big decisions when you are feeling calm and relaxed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it sounds a little counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but when we're stressed or anxious, our brains tend to make less rational choices.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like our fight or flight response takes over and we just can't think clearly.
Exactly. And an article suggests taking a step back, creating space for calm reflection, and only tackling those major decisions when we're feeling grounded and centered.
Hmm.
So, to recap what we've learned from these two Vietnamese articles, we've explored some practical life lessons for a more fulfilling life and uncovered some actionable steps to become more confident decision makers.
It's amazing how these seemingly simple ideas can have such a profound impact on our lives. I'm already feeling inspired to apply some of these strategies.
Me too, me too. Now, are you ready to dive into the fascinating world of brain chemistry and explore how it influences our productivity?
Yeah, I'm always up for a journey into the inner workings of the brain. Let's do it.
All right.
Buckle
All
up.
right, our final source is this YouTube video called Train Your Brain to Increase Energy, Focus, Alertness, Discipline, Motivation, and Satisfaction Immediately.
Oh, wow.
Quite a mouthful, right?
Yeah.
But it dives into the science behind these four neurochemical powerhouses that impact our productivity and well-being:
Okay.
dopamine, epinephrine, acetylcholine, and serotonin.
Okay. I'm intrigued. I love a good deep dive into brain science. What stood out to you about these neurochemicals?
Well, you mentioned wanting to boost your productivity at work.
Yeah.
This video really focuses on dopamine,
Okay.
that feeling of motivation and drive that helps us achieve our goals.
Right.
And it even suggests some interesting ways to increase dopamine naturally.
Wait, does this involve cold showers? Because I heard that can trigger dopamine release, but honestly, I'm more of a warm shower person.
Haha, I hear you. While the video does mention cold showers, it also emphasizes the importance of sleep for regulating dopamine,
Okay,
something we could all probably benefit from.
for sure.
It even suggests breaking down large tasks into smaller, more achievable steps to get those dopamine hits more frequently.
That makes sense. Breaking down those big goals into smaller chunks can make them feel less daunting and more rewarding. And you're right, a good night's sleep is crucial for so many things, including keeping those dopamine levels balanced.
Totally. Now, you mentioned feeling a bit overwhelmed lately with everything that you've got going on.
Yeah.
And the video also dives into epinephrine, which is also known as adrenaline, which is responsible for our energy levels and alertness, especially in those stressful situations.
So those times when I'm feeling that pressure and my energy spikes, that's epinephrine kicking in, helping me power through.
Exactly. And understanding how epinephrine works can be a real game changer when it comes to managing stress and maintaining energy levels throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
The video even suggests incorporating short bursts of physical activity
Okay.
to relieve epinephrine and boost alertness.
Okay.
Maybe a quick walk around the block when you hit that afternoon slump.
I like it. Yeah, a change of scenery and a little bit of movements can make a world of difference. It's amazing how these simple things can have such a big impact on our brain chemistry.
It really is. Now, remember how you were saying that you wanted to improve your focus and concentration?
Yeah.
The video talks about acetylcholine, which plays a really critical role in learning and memory.
Okay.
So as you're absorbing all this information right now, that's acetylcholine hard at work.
Wow, that's incredible. So as I'm learning about acetylcholine, it's actually helping me to learn more effectively.
Exactly.
That's a cool concept. Are there any specific techniques that the video suggests for boosting acetylcholine?
Yeah, one really interesting technique is consciously narrowing your visual focus to minimize distractions.
Okay.
It's like giving your brain a really clear signal about what it should be paying attention to.
Right.
The video also mentions chewing gum as a potential acetylcholine booster, although the science behind that one is still kind of being debated.
Huh. I never would have guessed that chewing gum could impact focus. It's amazing how much we're still learning about the complexities of our brains.
Absolutely. And finally, let's talk about serotonin.
Okay.
You mentioned wanting to feel more satisfied and content with your life.
Yes.
Serotonin is that neurochemical that's responsible for those feelings of well-being and inner peace.
Right.
And the video highlights the importance of exercise and physical touch for releasing serotonin.
Okay.
It even suggests getting out in nature and spending time with loved ones as natural mood boosters.
So maybe a walk in the park with a friend could be the ultimate serotonin hack.
I love it. Now, taking a step back and looking at all three of our sources, I'm struck by how each offers a different perspective on self-improvement.
Yeah.
From practical life advice to, the science behind brain chemistry.
It's fascinating how these seemingly disparate sources, they all tie back to this idea of taking control of our lives and maximizing our potential.
It makes me realize there's this subtle thread woven through all three of them, even though they're focusing on different areas, and it's this idea of the importance of relationships.
Yeah, you're right. It's not explicitly stated, but it's definitely there. The Vietnamese self-help article touched on nurturing connections and how they enrich our lives, while the article on decision-making encouraged seeking advice and input from others. And even the YouTube video, it linked social connection to serotonin and happiness.
Exactly. It's like all these sources are reminding us we don't have to go it alone. And those strong relationships can be these incredibly valuable resources for support, guidance, and even cognitive boosts.
Totally. I can't even count how many times a conversation with a friend or a mentor has helped me gain clarity, solve a problem, or just feel more motivated to keep going. That social support system is invaluable.
Absolutely. And, it's not just about emotional support.
Right.
Those connections can also provide practical assistance, valuable information, and even access to new opportunities.
It's true. It's true. Think about it. How often have you landed a job, discovered a new hobby, or found a solution to a problem thanks to somebody in your network?
Yeah, all the time.
It happens all the time.
It's like our relationships, they expand our horizons and connect us to this wider web of possibilities.
Yeah,
And it's not just about what others can do for us either.
right.
By giving back to others, we can also boost our own well-being and sense of purpose.
Have you ever noticed how good it feels to help somebody else? It's like those acts of kindness and generosity actually benefit us as much as the person we're helping.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like there's this ripple effect.
Yeah.
By contributing to the well-being of others, we create this more positive and supportive environment for everyone, including
It's a
ourselves.
beautiful cycle.
It really is. Now, speaking of cycles, have you ever heard of this concept of brain plasticity?
Brain plasticity, that sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
Yeah, it's this fascinating idea from neuroscience, and our brains are constantly changing and adapting throughout our entire lives.
So it's like our brains are constantly rewiring themselves based on our experiences.
Exactly. And here's the really fascinating part. The quality of our relationships can actually impact the structure and function of our brains.
Whoa. Really? How does that work?
Well, think about it. When we engage in positive social interactions, our brains, they release a flood of these beneficial neurochemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. And these chemicals not only make us feel good, they also actually promote the growth and survival of brain cells.
So it's like those positive social experiences are actually fertilizing our brains and helping them to grow.
Exactly. And on the flip side, when we experience chronic stress, loneliness, or social isolation, our brains release cortisol, which is a stress hormone
Okay.
that can damage brain cells and even impair our cognitive function.
Oh, wow. So it's almost like those negative social experiences are toxic to our brains.
Yeah, in a
Wow.
way, chronic stress and loneliness can actually lead to a decline in brain volume, especially in areas involved in memory, learning, and emotional regulation.
Interesting.
It's a powerful reminder that our social connections, they're essential for our cognitive health and our overall well-being.
That makes a lot of sense. The quality of our relationships literally shapes the physical structure of our brains, which in turn affects our thoughts, emotions, and behavior.
Exactly.
It's a truly mind-blowing concept, and it makes me appreciate even more the power of nurturing those positive and supportive relationships in our lives.
Absolutely. So what are some practical steps that we can take to cultivate these brain-boosting relationships?
Well, I think the first step is awareness,
Okay.
recognizing that social connection isn't just a nice-to-have, but a crucial component of a healthy and fulfilling life. We need to make it a priority, just like we prioritize exercise, nutrition, and sleep.
Okay, that's a great point. So how can we make sure that we're giving those relationships the attention that they deserve?
Well, we can actually schedule time for social interaction,
Okay.
just like we schedule time for work and other important activities. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be a simple phone call with a friend, a coffee date with a colleague, or a family dinner.
It's those small, consistent actions that really make a big difference over time.
Exactly.
And I think it's also important to remember that quality trumps quantity.
Yeah.
It's better to have a few close, supportive relationships than a wide circle of superficial acquaintances.
It's about finding those people who truly lift you up and make you feel seen and understood. Those are the relationships that nourish our souls and help us to thrive.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about some specific strategies for strengthening those existing relationships and maybe even building some new ones.
Okay?
One technique that's incredibly powerful yet often overlooked is active listening.
Yes.
When we truly listen to someone without judgment or interruption, we create a space for them to feel heard, seen, and understood.
Right. Put down your phone, make eye contact, and truly tune in to what the other person is saying. It's amazing how much deeper those connections become when we truly feel heard and understood.
Exactly. And when it's our turn to speak, we can share our own thoughts and feelings authentically, without trying to impress or one-up the other person.
Right. Create that safe and supportive environment where everybody feels comfortable being themselves.
So important. Authenticity is really the foundation of any strong relationship. And you mentioned showing appreciation earlier.
Yes,
That's another really key ingredient for building those strong connections.
absolutely. Taking the time to acknowledge the positive qualities in others and express our thanks for their presence in our lives can go a long way in strengthening those bonds and creating those positive feelings.
It's those simple acts of kindness, like saying thank you, giving compliments, or doing small favors for people that really make a difference.
It's about consistently showing up for the people in our lives and letting them know that we value and appreciate them.
Now, what about those relationships that are already strained or damaged? Is there any hope for repair?
Well, I believe there's always hope, but it requires a willingness to be vulnerable, to communicate honestly, and to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
It's about acknowledging past hurts, taking responsibility for our actions, and seeking understanding rather than blame.
It's not always easy, but the rewards of repairing a broken relationship can be immense.
It can be.
Greater intimacy, deeper connection, and a renewed sense of trust and love.
And even if a relationship can't be fully repaired, there's still value in learning from the experience and moving forward with compassion and understanding.
Every relationship, whether positive or negative, offers us these valuable lessons about ourselves and how we interact with the world.
Exactly.
So to sum up this part of our deep dive, relationships aren't just nice to have.
Right.
They're essential
Mm-hmm.
for our well-being, our success, and even the physical structure of our brains.
It's true.
By nurturing positive connections, practicing active listening, showing appreciation, we can create this rich and supportive social ecosystem that nourishes our minds, bodies, and souls.
And remember, it's never too late to start building those stronger, healthier relationships. The benefits are truly immeasurable.
Now, before we wrap up this episode, there's one more fascinating concept I want to touch on, and that is the interplay between our conscious and subconscious minds.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. I've always been fascinated by the hidden depths of our minds.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into self-improvement,
Yeah.
there's one more key concept that's woven through all three of our sources.
Okay.
And it's something that you specifically mentioned wanting to work on, and that is mindset.
Oh, yeah, it is fascinating how it keeps popping up, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the Vietnamese self-help article encouraging us to focus on our own path, or the YouTube video talking about consciously influencing our brain chemistry, it all comes back to the power of our thoughts and our beliefs.
It's like that saying, whether you think you can or you think you can, you're right.
Right.
Our mindset really does shape our reality.
It really does. And, since you're actively working on cultivating a more positive mindset, I think there are some really valuable gems in these sources that can help you with that.
I'm all ears. What specific strategies stood out to you?
Well, the Vietnamese self-help article, it emphasizes the importance of appreciating what we already have instead of constantly comparing ourselves to others.
Okay.
It's about celebrating our unique strengths and talents.
Yeah, comparison can really steal our joy and make us feel inadequate. It's like we forget to water our own grass because we're so busy looking at everybody else's lawn.
Exactly. And remember that article on decision-making. It encourages us to view setbacks as opportunity for growth.
Okay.
Instead of dwelling on failures, we can reframe them as valuable learning experiences.
It's like embracing a growth mindset where challenges become these stepping stones rather than roadblocks.
Right. And even the YouTube video with its focus on brain chemistry, it highlighted how powerful our thoughts are in influencing our neurochemicals.
Yeah.
It suggested that by consciously choosing thoughts that evoke joy, gratitude, and love, we can actually increase those feel-good chemicals like dopamine and serotonin.
It's like we have this internal pharmacy that we can access just by shifting our thoughts.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Now, even with all these strategies, we're still human, right?
Yeah,
Negative thoughts are bound to pop up sometimes. So what do we do when that happens?
that's where mindfulness comes in. By becoming more aware of our thoughts and feelings without judgment, we can start to detach from those negative patterns and choose more empowering ones.
So it's about observing our thoughts without getting swept away by them.
Exactly.
We can choose to let those negative thoughts pass by like clouds instead of letting them rain on your parade.
I like that. I like that. The more we practice mindfulness, the better we become at choosing our thoughts and responses instead of just reacting automatically.
Makes sense. I'm feeling very inspired to put these strategies into practice.
Me too. It's empowering to realize that we have so much more control over our thoughts, feelings, and actions than we often give ourselves credit for.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought from that YouTube video that we talked about.
Okay?
It mentioned that our brains actually operate differently at different times of day.
Right.
Sometimes are better suited for focused work, while other times are ideal for, creative brainstorming or relaxation.
Makes sense.
So the question is, could you be more productive and fulfilled if you scheduled your work and activities around those natural peaks and valleys in your brain's performance?
Wow, that's a great question to ponder. It encourages us to be more mindful of our natural rhythms and work with our brains, not against them.
Absolutely. And remember, this is just a starting point. Keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself and the incredible power of your mind.
That's great advice.
And remember, knowledge is power. COTFM.